to break down how to evaluate what an apartment building is actually worth. And it depends on who you ask and what method you use, but I want to break down 3 common methods that I use that help bring clarity to me on, is this a good investment or is this a poor investment? So you're going to want to stay tuned as I break it all down next. Hey guys, I'm Jay Lehman. I'm a local real estate investor and realtor right here in Champaign, Illinois, helping people build wealth through real estate. And I want to break down how do you evaluate actual multifamily property. And I want to break down not just specific to this market, but it can be used any market, but I'll use numbers that are specific to Champaign-Urbana and Central Illinois and what we look at, okay? So first and foremost, when we evaluate real estate, there are really 3 ways we can evaluate it. There's all kinds of different ways that people will say, but these are the 3 main ways that I like to focus on. Number 1 is GRM, number 2 is cap rate, and then number 3 is cash on cash. Now, that's not in order of importance. They're all just different tools that give you a different snapshot of the property. For GRM, this stands for gross rent multiplier. You're going to take the yearly rents, let's say in this case, the rents are $100,000. And at $100,000, you're going to say, what is the gross rent multiplier that people are buying this property at? Well, in Champaign-Urbana, the gross rent multiplier is about 7.5, okay? 7.5, that means you take the yearly rents, which are $100,000 in this case, times 7.5, and that would equal $750,000. Now, it's a very easy calculation for you to figure out exactly how much an apartment is worth. The problem with this is that the GRM is only focused on income. And in any business, you have income and expenses, right? And so it doesn't take into account the expenses of the property, just the income. So it has a fault in it that it only shows part of the picture. That's where cap rate comes in. Now, the capitalization rate is really a snapshot at a property that looks what you would make on the property if you bought it without a loan. And what I mean by that, if you bought a $100,000 property cash, how much money would you make on that after 1 year? If it's a 6% cap, you would make $6,000. A 7% cap, you would make $7,000 because that's a $100,000 property. But let me break down cap rate for this example right here. Let's say our income right here is $100,000, okay? Now, what I'll tell you about that income is usually in Champaign-Urbana, we take in taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, all the different expenses you'll pay. Usually your expenses will be about 50% of that property. That's called the 50% rule. You'll get $50,000. Now, this is what we call our NOI, your net operating income. Once you have your net operating income, you need to divide it by what we call the cap rate. Again, the cap rate is simply if I bought a property cash, how much money would I make on that investment? If it's $100,000 properties, I make $6,000 or $7,000, that's a 6 or 7% cap rate. Now, the way we find out a cap rate is looking at different comps in the market. What does stuff sell for? Just like we found out the GRM, and that's where a realtor like me comes in that can tell you, hey, the GRMs in Champaign-Urbana are 7.5. The cap rates are around 6.5 to 7.5. Let's say the cap rate is 7.5%. So you take this and you divide this by 0.075, okay? Now if I divide 50,000, I'll do some quick calculations here. 50,000 divided by 0.075, that's gonna make this property worth $667,000, okay? So you can see the cap rate gives a different price than the GRM because it took into account expenses, all right? So there's different ways to evaluate that. Now, if you lowered the cap rate, this number would go up because we're dividing this number by a lower number. So again, the way I find the evaluation of a property is the NOI divided by the cap rate equals my purchase price. Again, this gives a little bit different number than that, the GRM. Now, I like to always figure and calculate the cash flow. These don't necessarily tell me what I'm going to cash flow. This one tells me what my gross income is. The cap rate tells me a snapshot of when I have my net operating income with my expenses and what the cap rate is, what it's evaluated. Cash on cash is a little bit simpler when it comes to how much money am I going to make in the first year of buying this property, and we call this cash on cash return. I'll use a real simple example. In this case, let's just say we know the value of the property is $100,000, not the cash flow, not the gross rents, it's $100,000. And let's say to buy this property, we have to put 20% down. We put 20% down and we get a loan for 80%. So we put $20,000 down, we get an asset worth $100,000. And then let's say in that given year, we make about $2,000 in cash flow. That's about $160, $170 a month, okay? So you make $2,000 in cash flow on that property. Well, to figure out cash on cash, I take the $2,000 divided by what I put down, so my cash flow divided by my down payment, okay? And when I do that, what ends up happening is I'll get a 10% cash on cash, C on C we call it, return. Now, if I lower my down payment to maybe only put 10% down through creative financing, right? So I make $2,000 and I put 10% down through creative financing, then I'm gonna do 2,000 divided by 10,000, and that's gonna be a $20,000 cash on cash return. Sometimes we can put low or no money down and then we have an infinite cash on cash return. But you can get a cash on cash return, meaning the money I put down made this amount of money by calculating the money you put down divided by cash flow that you had, which is 2,000 divided by the money you put down, gives you a snapshot of the cash flow that you create. Now, all three of these methods have their shortcomings. This one's just about income. This one is a snapshot of what it would be like with income and expenses, and it's a little bit lower. This one talks about the money that I make in year one on cash flow. All of them are useful. All of them are good. Would you do me a favor and comment below which of these methods is your favorite? Which of these ones do you use in your market? And which one do you think gives you the most accurate evaluation of what that property is actually worth? Evaluating properties is a skill, and like any skill, if you'll rep it out, you can get better at it. But a shortcut to getting better at a skill is to find a mentor. I'm a mentor that can help you evaluate, find, and close on income-producing properties here in Champaign-Urbana. And if you want one of those, comment below, because we can help you get one. Let's go.